Chapter 7 of the Riddle of the Sands. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Gesine. The Riddle of the Sands by Erskine Childers. Chapter 7 The Missing Page. I woke on 1st of October with that dispiriting sensation that a hitch has occurred in a settled plan. It was explained when I went on deck, and I found the Dulcibella wrapped in a fog, silent, clammy, nothing visible from her decks but the ghostly hull of a galliot at anchor near us. She must have brought up there in the night, for there had been nothing so close the evening before, and I remembered that my sleep had been broken once by sounds of rumbling chain and gruff voices. "This looks pretty hopeless for today," I said with a shiver to Davies, who was laying the breakfast. "Well, we can't do anything till this fog lifts," he answered, with a good deal of resignation. Breakfast was a cheerless meal. The damp penetrated to the very cabin, whose roof and walls wept a fine dew. I had dreaded a bath, and yet I missed it, and the ghastly light made the tablecloth look dirtier than it naturally was, and all the accessories more sordid. Something had gone wrong with the bacon, and the lack of egg cups was not in the least humorous. Davies was just beginning, in his summary way, to tumble the things together for washing tip, when there was a sound of a step on deck. 2 sea boots appeared on the ladder, and before we could wonder who the visitor was, a little man in oilskins and a sou'wester was stooping towards us in the cabin door, smiling affectionately at Davies out of a round grizzled beard. "Well met, Captain," he said quietly in German. "Where are you bound to this time?" "Bartels!" exclaimed Davies, jumping up. The 2 stooping figures, young and old, beamed at each other like father and son. "Where have you come from? Have some coffee. How is the Johannes? Was that you that came in last night? I'm delighted to see you." I spare the reader his uncouth lingo. The little man was dragged in and seated on the opposite sofa to me. "I took my apples to Kappeln," he said, sedately, "and now I sail to Kiel, and so to Hamburg, where my wife and children are. It is my last voyage of the year. You are no longer alone, Captain, I see." He had taken off his dripping sou'wester, and was bowing ceremoniously towards me. "Oh, I quite forgot," said Davies, who had been kneeling on one knee in the low doorway, absorbed in his visitor. "This is meine Freund, Herr Carruthers. Carruthers, this is my friend, Schiffer Bartels, of the galliot Johannes." Was I never to be at an end of the puzzles which Davies presented to me? All the impulsive heartiness died out of his voice and manner as he uttered the last few words, and there he was, nervously glancing from the visitor to me, like one who, against his will or from tactlessness, has introduced 2 persons who he knows will disagree. There was a pause while he fumbled with the cups, poured some cold coffee out, and pondered over it as though it were a chemical experiment. Then he muttered something about boiling some more water, and took refuge in the forecastle. I was ill at ease at this period with seafaring men, but this mild little person was easy ground for a beginner. Besides, when he took off his oilskin coat he reminded me less of a sailor than of a homely draper of some country town, with his clean turned-down collar and neatly fitting frieze jacket. We exchanged some polite platitudes about the fog and his journey and his voyage last night from Kappeln, which appeared to be a town some 15 miles up the fjord. Davies joined in from the forecastle with an excess of warmth which almost took the words out of my mouth. We exhausted the subject very soon, and then my vis-à-vis smiled paternally at me, as he had done at Davies, and said confidentially, "It is good that the captain is no more alone. He is a fine young man. Heaven, what a fine young man! I love him as my son, but he is too brave, too reckless. It is good for him to have a friend." I nodded and laughed, though in reality I was very far from being amused. "Where was it you met?" I asked. "In an ugly place, and in ugly weather," he answered gravely, but with a twinkle of fun in his eye. "But has he not told you?" he added with ponderous slyness. "I came just in time. No, what am I saying? He is brave as a lion and quick as a cat. I think he cannot drown, but still it was an ugly place, and ugly—" "What are you talking about, Bartels?" interrupted Davies, emerging noisily with a boiling kettle. I answered the question. "I was just asking your friend how it was you made his acquaintance." "Oh, he helped me out of a bit of a mess in the North Sea, didn't you, Bartels?" he said. "It was nothing," said Bartels, "but the North Sea is no place for your little boat captain. So I have told you many times. How did you like Flensburg? A fine town, is it not? Did you find Herr Krank, the carpenter? I see you have placed a little mizzenmast. The rudder was nothing much, but it was well that it held to the Eider. But she is strong and good, your little ship, and heaven, she had need be so." He chuckled and shook his head at Davies, as at a wayward child. This is all the conversation that I need record. For my part, I merely waited for its end, determined on my course, which was to know the truth once and for all, and make an end of these distracting mystifications. Davies plied his friend with coffee and kept up the talk gallantly, but affectionate as he was, his manner plainly showed that he wanted to be alone with me. The gist of the little skipper's talk was a parental warning that, though we were well enough here in the Ostsee, it was time for little boats to be looking for winter quarters. That he himself was going to the Kiel Canal, to Hamburg, to spend a cosy winter as a decent citizen at his warm fireside, and that we should follow his example. He ended with an invitation to us to visit him on the Johannes, and with suave farewells disappeared into the fog. Davies saw him into his boat, returned without wasting a moment, and sat down on the sofa opposite me. "What did he mean?" I asked. "I will tell you," said Davies. "I'll tell you the whole thing. As far as you're concerned, it's partly a confession. Last night I had made up my mind to say nothing, but when Bartels turned up, I knew it must all come out. It's been fearfully on my mind, and perhaps you'll be able to help me, but it's for you to decide." "Fire away," I said. "You know what I was saying about the Frisian Islands the other day. A thing happened there which I never told you, when you were asking about my cruise." "It began near Norderney," I put in. "How did you guess that?" he asked. "You're a bad hand at duplicity," I replied. "Go on." "Well, you're quite right. It was there, on 9th of December. I told you the sort of thing I was doing at that time, but I don't think I said that I made inquiries from one or two people about duck shooting, and had been told by some fishermen at Borkum that there was a big sailing yacht in those waters whose owner, a German of the name of Dollmann, shot a good deal and might give me some tips. Well, I found this yacht one evening, knowing that it must be her from the description I had. She was what is called a barge yacht, of 50 or 60 tons, built for shallow water, on the lines of a Dutch galliot, with lee boards and those queer round bows and square stern. She's something like those galliots anchored near us now. You sometimes see the sort of yacht in English waters, only there they copy the Thames barges. She looked a clipper of her sort, and very smart, varnished all over and shining like gold. I came on her about sunset, after a long day of exploring round the Ems estuary. She was lying in— "Wait a bit, let's have the chart," I interrupted. Davies found it, and spread it on the table between us, first pushing back the cloth and the breakfast things to one end, where they lay in a slovenly litter. This was one of the only 2 occasions on which I ever saw him postpone the rite of washing up, and it spoke volumes for the urgency of the matter in hand. "Here it is," said Davies, and I looked with a new and strange interest at the long string of slender islands, the parallel